folks, the Filipina P here. And today I want to discuss something that every expat faces, the process of choosing a place to live. It can be tough to move to a new country you don't really know much about. And here in the Philippines, locating good real estate to rent can be a lot more difficult than what you're used to, with a whole bunch of things to beware of. You might just be looking for a place to lay your head, but those sweet dreams you imagined can easily turn into nightmares. Welcome to Real Estate Rental Scams. Now, before I tell you all the things to avoid, let me mention something you don't want to avoid: the thumbs up symbol, the subscribe button, and that little notification bell just below the screen. Hitting those three right now will definitely help the performance of this video, and it'll keep me making new content for as long as we both shall live. Amen. Now, once you decide to give the Philippines a try for a while, you're gonna be tempted to look at the real estate listings before you actually get here. It's only natural to want to see what's available, but as many of you expats have already discovered, don't even try to find accommodations before you arrive. Whatever listing you thought you saw, there's gonna be something wrong with it by the time you get here. Trust me. Unless you already have a place lined up, maybe with a woman you've been chatting with, just get here, stay at an Airbnb, and start looking in person for a longer-term rental. Hopefully you have a local to assist you. But even if you came here without one, I'm sure they'll change really quickly if you wanted to. And although some of you guys are used to owning your own houses, and you think that renting a place is a waste of money, let me try to talk you out of that, at least initially. As you probably know, the only thing you can own here is a condo. But until you get a really good feel for your surroundings, it's a much better idea to rent. For some reason, you'll notice that rent is really cheap here, but the price of buying real estate can be even more expensive than in many developed countries. So stick with renting at first, maybe forever. But here's where things start to get tricky. In most Western countries, finding an apartment, a house, or a condo isn't such a big deal. You folks have databases like the MLS that allow a real estate agent within minutes to look up what's available by size, price, and location, then set up a showing for any property you're interested in. And as a renter, you have a lot of rights and laws that protect you from being taken advantage of. But not here. The real estate market is a total mess, and many people find their living quarters from just asking around. Townspeople, taxi drivers, signs by the side of the road, but your biggest tool is gonna be Facebook, the de facto real estate broker of the Philippines. I know it sounds weird to you guys, but even though there are a few websites from larger real estate companies like Dot Property and Lemudi, most people look on Facebook to find their digs. But no matter where you spot the listing, prepare to enter a tangled web of misinformation and deception. Remember when I said that something was probably gonna be wrong with any listing you found while sitting in your comfy chair back in the West? Well, here are just a few of the problems you're likely to encounter once your boots hit the ground in the Philippines, and you really start looking. The 1 peso mansion. Yep, that's right. If the listed prices were real, you could live in a Hollywood-style palace for just 2 cents a month. But unfortunately, the price that's shown can be a total fabrication. And for some reason, that's perfectly acceptable here. You have to call or text to find out the real price. And good luck with that. Here's an online exchange I recently had with a real estate agent who advertised a 1 peso house for sale. I wish I could say it's the exception rather than the rule, but I can't, so I won't. So I asked this guy a simple question. How much is the monthly rental and sales price of the listing? But instead of giving me a price, he kept asking me what my budget was so he could show me other options. I stuck to my guns and kept asking for the price of the house. But after several days of getting the same response, He realized I wasn't gonna play his game, so he finally gave up. I never did get a prize, he just stopped responding. Now, most of you are either laughing or shaking your heads in disbelief right now. And you're probably thinking, if I called an agent and was given the runaround like that, not only would I never call them again, I'd report them to the appropriate government agency. Well, good luck doing that here. And what would you do if the next agent did the same thing? And the one after that? They don't all act this way, but get ready to face some BS here in Frustration Nation. The price is right until it's not. As with all things in the Philippines, prices can be more fluid than you'd like. The listing may say 18,000 pesos, but when you call, suddenly the price is 20,000 pesos. Maybe because the owner made some improvements. I actually went to view an apartment that was listed at 15,000 pesos. But when I got there, I was informed it was 19,000. When I showed the agent their own active listing, I was told that the online price was just wrong. No apology, no explanation. And for the real icing on the cake, she then asked me if I'd like to go inside. Needless to say, I left immediately. No apology, no explanation. Sorry, sir, not available. But look what I have here. I can't tell you how many times you're gonna call about a listing and be told, sorry, ma'am, sir, it's already rented. If you're foolish enough to ask a real estate agent why they have a dead listing still showing up on Facebook, and I have been foolish enough to ask, you'll get silence as a response. Sometimes you'll even see the same bogus listing from 6 months ago. And the agent is fully aware it's online because they're still getting calls about it. Why don't they delete it? You know why. They just want you to call, so the agent can show you something else. It's the classic bait and switch. And once again, it's standard practice here. Too many cooks in the kitchen. You might see 3, 4, even 5 different listings for the exact same place you're looking at, each with a different price tag and slightly different pictures. That's because there's not one exclusive agent trying to rent the place, and all those different agents add their own profit margin. Sound confusing? Well, get this. There might be more people in the transaction chain that you don't even know about. If a guy owns a house and wants to rent it out, and he tells his barber to look for a renter, and the barber tells another guy about it, and that guy finds someone to rent the house, then everyone down the line expects a cut of the action, which bumps up the price for you. Pretty crazy way to do business, huh? What's that smell? Don't expect anyone to tell you about it, even if you ask. But the gorgeous place you're looking at could be in a really bad location or neighborhood. Mansions are located next to shacks here. And I'm not talking about close by. I'm talking about literally right up against. There's no zoning here when it comes to property values. And the pictures you saw on the listing probably only showed a few different angles that conveniently omitted the neighbors. I guarantee you, they didn't post a photo of the pig farm that shares a common wall with the place they're trying to rent you. In which case, it's a good thing that pictures don't convey smell. Peekaboo, I can't see you. This one drives me nuts. If I'm looking at renting a place, I want to see the place. At least show me one good picture of the outside, the kitchen, the master bedroom, the living room, and the main bathroom. Just 5 good photos and I'm a happy camper. But no, real estate agents here have to play their peekaboo games. And the photos on the listing will be so vague, so generic, they could have been taken in a dark closet somewhere in Mongolia. It's frustrating as heck. But why did they do that? Don't they want to rent the place? It turns out that the crappy pictures are because the agents don't want other agents to recognize the place and put up their own listing for it, which literally leaves you in the dark. Size does matter. When you look at a real estate listing in the West, you expect the information to be reasonably correct. And in most countries, there are laws that prohibit false advertising. But here, Take all information with a grain of salt, because a tiny closet might be counted as a bedroom, and Harry Potter's room under the stairs might be described as a luxurious master suite with its own ensuite hallway. A closet with a bucket might count as a bathroom, and a hole punched in a wall might be called a revolutionary new means of room ventilation. Living area is also measured differently here. So anything with a covering gets counted, even walkways, garages, and patios. So when you see a listing for a tiny shoebox of a place that boasts 200 square meters, you can assume that either there's some creative use of a tape measure or the shoebox belonged to Andre the Giant. It depends. What ethnicity are you again? You want to see real racism and preferential treatment based on your ethnicity? Then check this out. When you call the number on the listing to ask what the real price is, instead of the 1 peso that's listed, the first question you might be asked is what nationality are you? Why? Because different races and nationalities pay different prices. And yes, I'm serious as a heart attack. It would be considered illegal, immoral, and unbelievably unfair where you come from. But here, it's just business as usual. Chinese and Koreans get quoted a higher price because they have the reputation of being bad renters that destroy things. Westerners usually get a better deal because they have the reputation for taking care of the place they're renting. Just for fun, I called about a listing I saw on Facebook to ask about the price. As expected, they asked me the nationality of the person renting, and I said he was Korean. I was given a price of 35,000 pesos a month, about 700 US dollars. I waited a day, called back, and this time I said the renter was Canadian, and got a price of 32,000 pesos, or 640 US dollars. That's a $60 per month skin tax, and it's all completely legal here. Now, if you call yourself and your accent is easily recognizable, they might figure out where you're from and not have to ask. But if you have your Filipino partner call, get ready for double discrimination. Because when they ask what nationality the renter is, they're already assuming that the Filipino on the phone can't possibly afford to lease the place, and they want to know who it really is so they can determine how much to charge you. Can you imagine if you called a realtor in the West and before they tell you the price, they had to know what nationality or race you were? Well, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling it like it is. Would you like fries with that? Although the bigger cities are starting to enact laws and guidelines to solve a lot of these problems, the real estate industry in the Philippines is still not well regulated. In fact, the real estate agent you might be dealing with could have just gotten off work from his shift at Jollibee's and be nothing more than a regular person with a motorbike. He might not know anything more about the property he's showing than you do. And giving the useless photos you saw, that ain't much. You can ask him if he's licensed, but like with everything else here, don't expect a straight answer, or any answer. So now I've told you about the games they play with real estate listings. But what are some of the things you can do proactively to avoid the problems? Well, I have a couple tips that might save you some big headaches as well as a pile of pesos. First, it pays to haggle. You probably don't haggle for rent where you come from. But when you put an offer in on a house, it's usually lower than the asking price. Just treat it the same way here and offer a few thousand pesos less than whatever you were quoted. The worst they can say is no. And if you're successful, that few thousand pesos adds up to 500 bucks a year. Better yet, have your Filipina do the haggling. We're used to it, and we might know how to play things a little better. Don't take their word on things like internet speed. Test it yourself when you tour the place. There's a phone app that can tell you the upload and download speed in seconds. Don't take their word on how often the power goes out or how quiet it is on Sunday morning when people can crank up their music to a volume that literally rattles your dishes. or if anyone owns a pack of barking dogs. Instead, ask any expat neighbors. If you ask the real estate agent or any Filipino neighbors, you're gonna be told that everything's fine, no problems, the power never goes out, and the neighborhood is as quiet as a library. So check things out yourself, and even drive by there on Friday night to determine the noise level. And when you finally pick a place, no matter what, insist on having a legal contract with the person you're renting from, and make sure that the person whose name is on the lease is also the person who owns the property, and their name appears on the deed. There's a lot of funny business going on here, where you sign a lease, pay the money, and then find out that your lease is useless because you just signed a deal with the owner's ex-husband. You also want to film the signing and make a video where the landlord acknowledges counting and receiving the cash. Most rents are paid in cash here, and there's nothing besides your video to prove that payment was made once it's handed over. Well, I could go on for another hour, but I'll just make all the other things into a volume 2. So, do you guys have any real estate nightmare to share? If you've seen other scams, shady dealings, or confusing and annoying practices, please share them with everyone. We'd all appreciate it. Well, that's it for today, guys, and I hope you're equipped to handle the Filipino real estate minefield once you get here. Look very carefully at anything that's offered, and don't say I didn't warn you. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like your chef, cooking up gourmet content for you connoisseurs of quality videos. The only thing I ask for my talent in the kitchen is a small thank you in the form of a thumbs up on this video and subscribing to my channel. And while you're waiting for your next culinary masterpiece, why not enjoy some of my other videos too? And if you find a really long black hair in your food, he did it!